Good morning. You're watching Much Ado About Something, and I'm Donna. And today we're going to learn how to make apple cider vinegar. How to make apple cider vinegar. It's a simple process, and it's a wonderful natural thing that occurs, and it's a good way to use up apples. Well, if you've been watching my videos, then you know I've had a lot of crab apples. My husband was able to go with friends and pick 6 5-gallon buckets of crab apples. And so the first thing that I did with that was to make crabapple jam. And the second thing that I did with that was to make crabapple vinegar. And look at this beautiful vinegar that comes from the crab apples. Crab apples are relatively abundant. I'm just showing these to show you that you can make them out of any apple that you have. Most of us have access to apples. There's plenty of apples at the grocery store. Today I'm just going to use these little 3 apples that I got when I went to the orchard. I have a whole bushel of apples that my mom and I were able to harvest off of her friend's tree. When Hurricane Ian knocked down her friend's apple tree, I was able to get this whole bushel of apples and just pick them off that tree, and Mama got her some. Now, these don't look all that pretty. They're not perfect like what you see at the grocery store, but they're perfectly good for making apple cider vinegar. You don't want any brown or rotten spots, so we wouldn't use this one. We'll throw that out. But otherwise, these apples are perfect. It really doesn't matter what kind of apples you use. Now, I got these Arkansas Blacks at the orchard Sunday when me and my husband and my little grandson were able to go to the orchard. I got these beautiful apples. The skin color will determine the color of your vinegar. So keep that in mind as you're making your vinegar. This is what most apple cider vinegar looks like. This is organic vinegar, apple cider vinegar, and it has the mother. And there's other brands that are sold. And it can be kind of pricey. And most of the time the color is this color. But I used crab apples and got this beautiful color. So you can experiment and just see what kind of apples that you want to use to get this beautiful apple cider that has so many wonderful uses. It has great benefits for your body, and it also makes really great, delicious salad dressings and herbal remedies, many things, many uses for this vinegar. It's really easy. Let's get started making it. The first thing you want to do is make sure that everything that you use is cleaned. So we're washing our apples. We'll put them over here and let them dry. We want to have a vessel, a container, to put our vinegar in as we make it. Glass is probably the #1 easily recommended container. You can use any jars that you have to make vinegar, depending on the amount that you're wanting to make. You can use a glass jar like this. I think quart jars are readily available at most places. They're really easy. Plus, it's not an overwhelming amount. If you make a quart jar of it, then that's a adequate amount, especially just starting out. So I'd recommend just starting out with quart jars. Got to make sure that everything that we use is cleaned, washed and cleaned. And when everything is washed and cleaned, you'll want distilled water if you have city water. I'm in the city, so I have city water. And that means there's a lot of additives in my water. Chlorine, fluoride, and who knows what else, right? So I buy distilled water, but you can also boil your water. You can also distill it yourself. If you want to run your city water out in a pail or a bowl and let it sit for 24 hours before you use it, a lot of things will evaporate out of it. You can boil your water for 10 minutes and let it cool before you use it, or you can just buy distilled water. There's only 3 ingredients needed to make this vinegar. And those ingredients are apples, water, and a small amount of sugar. Now I've got a pot going over here in a stainless steel pot. I didn't make this vinegar in a glass container. It's made in this stainless steel pot. So you can use a stainless steel pot if that's what you want, if that's what you have on hand, but just make sure it's stainless steel. You cannot use an aluminum pot or any other kind of metal because the vinegar will react with it as it ferments. So you want to make sure you have stainless steel or glass. That's the two recommended vessels to use when you're making your vinegar. Now there are going to be fruit flies. There's going to be fruit flies around because this is a ferment. That's what they're made for. They love fermented things. So we're going to look out for those, and we're going to take measures to prevent having fruit flies. You see right here, there'll be a fruit fly that'll fly over here every once in a while. So you're going to need some kind of cover. I'm using coffee filters, but I in no way use coffee filters all the time. I cut little scraps of cloth and make sure they're good and clean. Some people just only use white ones, but I just use anything that's a natural material, and I wash these and I use these to cover some of my ferment. So it's up to you. Coffee filters, clean cloth, but you don't want to use cheesecloth. That would be way too porous and gnats could get down through it. You want to make sure whatever cloth you use has a good tight weave. Now that we've got our vessels, I've got these 3 apples here, and I'm just going to chop these apples into small pieces. I'm going to be using peel and core and the whole apple. We're not going to get rid of any of it. We're just going to use the whole apple. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an apple and a half in each one of these quart jars. And that'll be enough to get this vinegar to make. So it'll be 1 apple and a half an apple in each jar. Just using the whole apple. Peelings, core, all of it. Now you'll see some people that will pack their whole jar plumb full of the apple, and that's unnecessary. You don't have to do that. You just want to use as much as you need to be effective. And I use about 1 apple and a half per quart. And I just put that apple in the wrong jar. We already have a red apple here. I'm putting a red apple here. You can use whatever apples you have. I love to use a darker color apple because it does affect the vinegar color. And you know the beautiful crab apples made that beautiful red vinegar, which is so good if you're entertaining. And it's a beautiful vinegar to put on your table, make homemade salad dressings from. I mean, there's just so many things you can do with it. Now this apple has a little bad spot on it. That is not something that you want to put in your vinegar. So if you have any kind of little dark spot, just take that completely out. A full ripe apple is excellent to use, but a apple that has a rotten place, you know, or a bad spot, you just want to completely take that bad spot out and not put that in your vinegar. The apple's still good. We just don't want the brown spot. The wonderful thing about these recipes is they make use of some fruit that you might otherwise not be able to eat in time before it spoils. Okay, we've got our apple chopped and in our clean jars. And now I'm going to add about a tablespoon of sugar. Now growing up, we never added sugar to grape or to apple vinegars because they had enough sugar. But it's recommended now to just add a little bit of sugar to get your yeast started. And then we want to cover this just over your apples. We have 1½ apples in each quart jar. We have 1 tablespoon of sugar, just common table sugar. I guess you could use any sweetener that's natural. You could probably use honey or any other kind of sugar that you wanted to use. But I just use the common table sugar or just ground white sugar. Now that you have your apples and your sugar and your distilled water, you want to give some headspace because as this ferments, it'll bubble a little bit. So I've got about 2 inches of headspace here. And now we're going to cover these. We're going to cover them with coffee filters and a rubber band. And that will keep any kind of fruit fly or gnat or anything that wants to get in your vinegar, it'll keep it out. But it can still have airflow that it needs to breathe and ferment. Now we're going to leave this on our shelf for about 3 to 8 weeks. That's about how long it takes to make apple cider vinegar. Now you can see here on this vinegar, you can see the bacteria. There's no black mold on this vinegar, and there shouldn't be any on yours. But if you do get some, just take a spoon and dip it out. Your vinegar should still be fine. This is the mother. That's the bacteria that turns this fruit into vinegar. Put this somewhere in your kitchen where you won't forget about it. And then just every day, just take off your coffee filter and stir this around. Stir it really good with a wooden spoon. You don't want to ever use metal in your glass jars because it'll cause little miniature scratches. You want to use a wooden spoon or a silicone spoon, something like that. Just make sure it's clean. Stir this up every day or 2. Check on it. And in about anywhere from 3 to 8 weeks, you'll have a beautiful vinegar. Now, it may not be this color. This was made with the crab apples. It may be brown, and that's okay. It'll be delicious, and you'll be able to use it in your salad dressings. You'll be able to use it in whatever recipe that you want to use your homemade vinegar with. It's also excellent to make hair products, cosmetic products, and cleaning products. So it's a simple thing, very low cost, very easy to make, very rewarding to make your own vinegar, your own apple cider vinegar. Thank you for joining me today, and like always, until next time.